Welcome to the Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. I am Matt Brick, your host, joined by Henry Brick, the commish, and Jeff Hathcock, the doctor. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning, Matt. Great to be on. Looking forward to a big day. It's the big first playoff game in the FFPC for me, so looking forward to a smash day.
Yes, good morning, guys. I'm excited. We are one more week closer to fantasy playoffs, or now every game really counts.
All right, let's start off with our Dude I'm Sorry segment. Henry, why don't you start us off?
All right, Matt. Well, last week I told everyone to sit Jordan Addison, who ends up going off. I mean, has an unbelievable game, a game of the century. So for that dude, I am sorry. Turns out I had the right game, wrong player. Justin Jefferson, way off his normal numbers, and they decided to kind of shut him down and turn on Jordan Addison. So for that dude, I am sorry. However, last week I did tell you to start David Montgomery, Tyrone Tracy, Baker Mayfield, all which had some pretty nice hits for your fantasy games. Hopefully, y'all listen to me. Also went off in my DFS, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the show. But a lot of good points. But man, I really got that Jordan Addison wrong. Terrible.
Jeff, give us your Dude I'm Sorry.
Yeah. So last week, I mean, I was pretty consistent across the board, but if you follow my DFS lineup, Joe Mixon had his worst game, and God knows how long. I think he's been 5 weeks straight where he was just out of his mind. But last week he played against the Titans defense that didn't let up much. He only scored 9.5 fantasy points in full PPR. So for that, if you guys tailed me on that, I'm sorry. But on the flip side, by apocalypse, by Mageddon, whatever you want to call it, I did call Nick Westbrook Akine. I did have that touchdown guarantee in there because the guy, every time he touches the ball, it feels like he's scoring a touchdown, and he did. So if you had to pick him up off waivers because you needed that start in the flex, hopefully he came through for you and got you a nice dub.
All right, let's get into the news and notes so far this week. On Thanksgiving, the Lions beat the Bears 23-20. The Bears did end up firing their head coach, Matt Eberflus. Not surprising. He just wasn't the guy there. And, they're going to be trying to find a new head coach next year. The Cowboys beat the Giants 27-20. Not really that surprising. Drew Lock just isn't really that great of a quarterback. Dallas defense did look a lot better than recent games. The Packers beat the Dolphins 30-17. No surprise there. I feel like the Packers are just rolling right now. The Chiefs beat the Raiders on Black Friday 19-17. A lot of people were upset about the last call of the flag because they changed the penalty from illegal shift to false start, I believe, or illegal, something like that, so that they couldn't decline it, or from false start to illegal shift. I think that's what it was. And just
Yeah, you're correct.
a little frustrating to see, but when you make mistakes against the Chiefs, you're probably not going to win. All right. Questionable players for today are Trevor Lawrence, Devonta Smith, Keon Coleman, Tajay Spears, Demario Douglas, and Younghoe Koo. So keep an eye on their status for today or whenever they play. Players that are out that are not playing are Cedric Tillman, J.K. Dobbins, who was put on IR, Josh Downs, Dalton Kincaid, Austin Eckler, also put on IR, Jatavian Sanders, Jalen Coker, Josh Oliver, and Tyler Higbee. Players expected to play are Brock Purdy, Alec Pierce, and Breece Hall. So please set your lineups accordingly and try to win some games today. All right, we are gonna start our stardom and segments. I'll start the stardom. This week I have James Cook tonight against the 49ers. I'm seeing so many different reports on what the weather is going to be tonight. It's just from what I'm seeing, it's going to snow. So the way I look at it is, if it's going to be an impactful thing, I think both teams will run the ball. So I think that James Cook will have a great day today, um, regardless of the weather. So I'm starting James Cook.
I do just want to because I do have boots on the ground. I was actually
Okay.
going to this game originally.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was we did it last year, a couple buddies of mine. So we I couldn't go this because of just scheduling issues, but I was going to be going to this game, but my buddies are there. The snow is there. They think it's going to be in the stadium. For right now, it doesn't look like it's going to be physically snowing during the game, but obviously the weather is the weather. You can't predict it. But they are currently in Niagara Falls, just across the pond, sitting warm right now. But there is snow. There are people who are going to the stadium to shovel snow out of the stadium. But yeah, it's going to be a cold one. Let's just say that it's going to be a cold one.
Yeah. That's what I'm in. It's Buffalo. I mean, it's this time of year. It's going to be cold, and you have to think about that when you're playing your guys there in Buffalo. Um, my next guy is Terry McLaurin against the Titans. I just think that Jaden Daniels is going to have a great day today against the Titans. So yeah, I love Terry McLaurin today against that defense. I'm starting Terry McLaurin. Finally, I have Brian Thomas Jr. against the Texans. I love Brian Thomas Jr. today. So it's the Jags on after a bye. Doug Peterson hasn't been fired yet. I mean, I personally think, like, if he does not win today, I think we will finally get the news that he will be fired. But yeah, I think that Brian Thomas Jr. is going to have a great day today. So those are my three guys to start. Kamish, why don't you give us your stardoms for the week?
You got it, Matt. Before I kind of get into that, you brought up an interesting thing with Eberflus getting fired with the Bears. I know you and I have been talking all week about, where Belichick's going to probably go or could go, but teams that are going to be looking for a coach, obviously the Bears, we think Dallas, the Jags, obviously, the Giants, probably, Jets, the Saints, and maybe some sus teams could be, maybe Bengals, maybe Browns based on schedule. Probably not, though. But a lot of teams are going to be looking for a head coach this offseason. Just going to be interesting. One team I didn't mention, the Raiders, like you brought up, Matt, the quarterback, Tom Brady, is now part owner of that team and could be a possible landing spot for Belichick. What do you guys think?
So for where it comes to the Belichick, I mean, I would as a Giants fan, I do think that Mara they're going to decide to keep Dable and Joe Shane on for at least another year just to see what they can do. With an actual quarterback. Currently, Giants have the number one draft pick, so we'll see how that turns out. But for being as defensive minded, and a defensive guru like Belichick, like the Giants and Jets both have pieces on defense that I could see Belichick, like, if he gets a hold of them, he could do some real good. And he's still one of the best minds in the game. Like, I listen to him all the time on ESPN when he's with the Mannings, and he's always breaking down football. Like, the guy still got it. He has his own ways, but I think especially if he doesn't get a job and Dable and Joe Shane just happen to have another fart of a season next year, I definitely could see if he's not sitting there, he could be the next Giants head football coach for sure. I think Mara would definitely try to make that move.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I love watching him on the Manningcast. I think he brings so much to that show. The way he looks at the game, I'm so on the edge every time he talks because he's so damn on it with players and how he would do things. It's such a great program to watch in comparison to watching Joe Buck yourself and Adrian they're just
Amen,
terrible.
Henry.
They're just terrible. So it is it's amazing other channels haven't kind of gone to that kind of way of broadcasting the game. I think it's genius, really do. Anyway, back to my starts of the week. I have the stack for everyone. Pay close attention as I point everything to my DFS lineup where I had a monster game again last week. Hopefully, put some money in everyone's pocket. But I love the Tampa Bay game today with Baker Mayfield. I mean, this guy has absolutely finished top 8 in scoring as quarterback with Mike Evans in the lineup. And I think he's going to feast today against the Panthers. I'm loving him throwing the ball to Mike Evans. He's my next big start. He was a little limited last week with his first game back from injury. This week should be full throttle as the Panthers give up the second most points to wide receivers per dropback. And you can't talk about Tampa Bay without mentioning Bucky Irving. I'm all over this game. The Panthers give up 162 yards per game to the running back. So look for Bucky to put up another monster game because how I see this going is they launch it in the beginning to get up ahead and then just run Bucky Irving. So all really great plays today.
All right, Jeff, who do you got?
Yeah, I am. I'm gonna hop on that Bucky Irving train too, Henry. After seeing what Carolina and Bryce Young had did last week against the against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, like they are a much better team. Like they are not the same old, I think, Panthers that you come in, you drop 40 on them, and then you can kind of just like get away. Their defense is starting to play a little bit better. But like you said before, Carolina has allowed the most rush attempts per game, which is averaging just under 28 rush yards per game, 129.5 touchdowns and there's 16 scheduled adjusted fantasy points to running backs. Bryce has looked better. I think they can keep the game competitive. And Rachaad White, he's going to get his. He's going to catch passes, but Bucky has just looked like the best runner on the field. I know Sean Tucker, he's kind of been there at the 1 yard line, vulturing those touchdowns, which it is what it is. But Bucky Irving, I expect him, especially because a lot of people were picking this guy up on waivers. Like you weren't spending high draft capital to get this guy. I think he's a great flex spot. I'm on board with you, Henry. I think he's going to have another wonderful game today, and I think he can definitely be a top 12 back this week if he if he continues to get the ball.
Jeff, he's basically what you're saying is he's the quintessential Gambini.
Yes. Sorry for my other start of the week. I'm going with Matt Stafford against the Saints. The Saints have been struggling. They don't look good. I'm kind of hesitant because this could be a Kyron game where he scores 3 touchdowns. It really could. But I love Stafford with Puka. You got Puka healthy. You got Kupp healthy for another game. And Stafford's 5 games without Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua on the field. He's the quarterback 43. When he's got them on the field, he's the quarterback 8 during 5 games with those 2 wide receivers. So it's a huge shift when they're both on the field. Again, the Saints defense, they are not what they used to be. They've gotten rid of pieces. I definitely think Matt Stafford is a great start today, especially if you're kind of iffy. I know there's a lot of matchups this week where you got tough matchups. So maybe you're thinking of streaming. I think Matt Stafford, he could definitely throw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns today and have himself a great game. And then my last start of the week, I'm going with George Pickens. Now, every time I've been on the George Pickens or the Russell Wilson train, it's been a disaster. Like, I thought George Pickens was going to be a smash against the Ravens, and he had an okay game. It wasn't anything crazy, but against Cincinnati, I'm looking for him to have one of those top 10 wide receiver weeks. Um, he's coming off that quiet game. He had the second most air yards last week. He had 140 air yards last week. Um, during his during the season total with Russ, he's on pace for an entire season, which is 18 games. He'd have 136 targets, 88 catches for 1,400 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns. Like, if you get that kind of fantasy production, that's insane. Like, you want that on your team. Bengals, they're a pass funnel defense over the last 5 games. They're going to allow an incredible amount of points as long as Russ can get the ball out in time. So I like George Pickens. I really do. I just hope I don't know why, but every time I try to have some type of Pittsburgh Steeler for a start of the week, they end up like just not having a great week. But you got to look at the game. You got to look at the players. He should have a smash start.
All right, let's get into our situms of the week. I'll start it off. This week I have Jauan Jennings. Like I said earlier, I'm just not comfortable with this snow game. If it snows during the game or not, I'm not comfortable starting Jauan Jennings today. I think it's going to be a great game. I mean, no doubt about. But yeah, I don't know. I got a weird feeling about this snow game. If anything, I do feel like I'd be more comfortable starting any Bills player because they're used to the cold. They're used to that kind of atmosphere. San Francisco, not quite the same climate that they're so used to having. So I'm going with Jauan Jennings to sit this week. I also have Elijah Moore sitting this week. Yeah, they played the Broncos on Monday Night Football. The Broncos, they're doing not as bad as I really thought they were so far this season. Bo Nix is kind of cooking right now, and I think that Cedric Tillman being out, Elijah Moore is probably going to have more of a tougher task. Probably having going up against Surtain. So, yeah, I'm benching Elijah Moore. And I'm also benching Geno Smith today against the Jets. I just feel like there are better quarterbacks out there to start. I'm benching Geno today against the Jets. Jeff, why don't you give us your sits this week?
Yeah, just getting back to that snow game, I'm sitting Deebo Samuel. He's the wide receiver 43 in points per game this season. He's sandwiched right between Rashad Bateman and Quentin Johnson. So I don't know. You guys can do the math on that. Like that's not great company to keep, especially for where you drafted Deebo this year, which was probably third, if not the fourth round. He's the wide receiver 42 in expected fantasy points, just behind Alan Lazard, who's been injured. Whether it's the injuries or recovering from like the pneumonia, he has not looked himself. And Brock Purdy, apparently he was he threw the ball lightly on Monday and then took a rest day Tuesday, and just I don't know. Even if Brock's in this lineup, I'm not confident starting Deebo. He's committing drops. He's not the Deebo that we're used to. And of course, saying this, like this could be like the Deebo breakout game where he goes nuts, but I'm not high on Deebo this week. And then my man James Conner, he got the bag, which is awesome to see because I really hope he does retire a Cardinal because he is like the life and soul of this team. And this is coming from I have like Marvin Harrison Jr., I have Kyler Murray. James Conner is what makes this team go on offense. But again, I'm tempering my expectations. They're facing a very good Vikings run defense. So obviously, if you have James Conner, you're probably going to be starting him this week, but I would not expect a lot. I don't know what happened last week. He had a total of 7 carries, I know they've been working Trey Benson in more into the offense, but the offense was just an entire dud last week. So I would throw that game out. I think they're going to try to get him more involved. I just don't think he's going to have that type of breakout game where he can score 20 points and really help win you a week. I don't think that's going to happen. So yeah, again, just temper your expectations on Connor. I love him. He's got an incredible schedule for fantasy playoffs. So just because if he has the down week, do not fret, because the rest of the games coming up, they are chef's kiss. They are incredible matchups for him. And then this is kind of like a tandem. I'm sitting Travis Etienne. I'm sitting Tank Bigsby is back in the lineup. I am sitting Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby if I have either of them. Etienne, again, he's been a bust all year. He's going to be splitting work again with Bigsby, who was back to practicing at full. And Houston's has allowed the 6th fewest fantasy points to running backs this season. And I think Jacksonville has the 5th lowest implied team total of 20 and a half points this year. So Bigsby's averaging more yards than Etienne, or averaging more points than Etienne. I'm sorry. In games without Etienne this season, but just 6 with him, 6 points a game, which is insane. So again, I as much as I want to believe in Trevor Lawrence coming back, and that hopefully Jacksonville can keep this competitive, because CJ Stroud lights this team up every time he plays them. So if you have Nico Collins, make sure he's in your lineup, instant start. But but yeah, I'm sitting Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby. I don't want any part of that Jacksonville backfield. And yeah, that's what I got for my sits.
All right, Kamesh, give us your sits of the week.
Well, Jeff, you and I are on the same mind today, because I too have Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby as sits. They basically cancel out each other. Tough matchup against the Titans or against the Texans today. So I'm also sitting Aaron Rodgers. He has stated that the team has given up. When the GM was fired a week or so ago, it was because he wasn't benched. So if he's saying the team's given up and Aaron Rodgers could be benched for draft capital, he is not a start for me today, or probably the rest of the way. Quentin Johnson, Hands of Stone is his nickname, has resurfaced because of the first read target share fell to 11% behind Lad McConkey and Palmer. So Quentin Johnson, major sit for me this week, guys.
All right, let's get into our DFS lineups of the week. I'll go ahead and start it off with my DFS lineup of the week. These are all DraftKings numbers. If you haven't played DFS, go check it out. You can play for free and you can win a couple dollars each week. It's a lot of fun. Go check it out. All right. My quarterback this week is Justin Herbert at 5,600. Yeah, I like Justin Herbert this week. I'm pretty sure I don't remember who they play this week. I want to say it's Arizona. I could be wrong. But the Falcons. That's right. Thank you. Yeah, I like the matchup. I think that Falcons defense has kind of been iffy over the past couple of weeks. Yes, I know. I'm pretty sure the Falcons had a bye last week. If I'm remembering that correctly. But I just like Justin Herbert this week, so I'm going with Herbert. Chase Brown at 6,200. I think that's a great value for Brown this week. He's just been kind of balling. It's against the Steelers, which Steelers have a great defense, but I think the value there for Brown is something you can't really pass up on, so I'm going with Brown. Chuba Hubbard, I have at 6,700. Yeah, I like Chuba a lot this week against the Bucs. They don't really have that great of a rush defense, so I'm going with Chuba Hubbard. Yeah, I love Chuba today. I think he's going to have a great day. My first wide receiver is T. Higgins. Again, playing the Steelers. I think this is kind of just like a 50-50 shot here, but the last time I started T Higgins, he had like 3 touchdowns, something stupid. Like it was. So I'm comfortable going with T Higgins here at 6,600. Next, I have Drake London against the Chargers at 6,500. Again, I think that this is just a good matchup for Drake London. Yeah, I this is that's going to be a good game. I mean, the over under is 47.5, so there's going to be a lot of scoring there, and I think that Drake London will get a lot of targets. My third wide receiver is Brian Thomas Jr. against the Texans. I mean, Brian Thomas Jr. has just been balling this year, and honestly, I'm shocked. I drafted him in our dynasty league, and I was not expecting him to explode like he has this year, but he just shut me up because he has just been playing at such a high level. I love Brian Thomas today against the Texans. This is a do or die game for Doug Peterson, so they're going to be playing football hard today against the Texans. I love Brian Thomas Jr. My tight end is T.J. Hockenson against the Cardinals. What's his? He 4,400. I think that's a great value for Hockenson. I feel like I feel like he can give me 10 points. So I think that's a good start there. And for 4,400, that helps me get better guys there. And at my flex, I have Bucky Irving at 5,800. It sounds like we're all big on Bucky Irving today against the Panthers. So, yep, I love that. And finally, I have the Jets defense. I forgot to write how much money they are, but I'll find it, and one of you guys can go. So, Kamish, why don't you give us your DFS lineup of the week?
Thanks, Matt. Sounds like you put together a pretty good lineup. Just to recap, week 12 scored 150.76. Had some pretty nice starts, and I think I have another monster start again this week for everyone. Make sure everyone gets their pens and papers out so you can jot this lineup down. I'm going to go with, as I talked about earlier, Baker Mayfield goes up against Carolina. He's only 6,600. He's in a great spot. That game has a 46.5 over under, so there should be a lot of scoring in that game, mostly by the Bucks. I'm going again right back to Saquon Barkley at 8,500. I'm paying up for the guy. Baltimore has a great offense, but a terrible defense, and I look for him to put up some really huge numbers today. Bucky Irving. We've all talked about him today. He's only 5,800 on DraftKings, paying up for Barkley and getting a value pick at Irving, who should have a monster game. I think is a great pairing. And once again, the three-headed stack. I'm going Mike Evans. He's only 6,700, which is crazy cheap on DraftKings. I think he's going to get in the end zone. He's still wants to put up that 1,000-yard season to keep his streak alive for 1,000-yard seasons since, I don't know, this might be his 10th or 11th year in the league. Calvin Ridley, who's been a superstar for Tennessee, 5,700 goes up against Washington. I think is a really good start. I mean, they're giving him a projection on DraftKings at 12.1. I think he overperforms that at 5,700. And on a value pick, allowing me to pick other big players, I went with Adnan Mitchell. He's only 3,900 with the Colts against New England, but I think there'll be a lot of other players they're going to be looking to take out because that's sort of New England's MO. Adnan Mitchell will not be on that list, so he could surprise everybody with a touchdown in this game. At tight end, I love Evan Ingram. He gets Trevor Lawrence back at quarterback today. They are at home. They are against Houston. 4,800 on DraftKings seems like a no-brainer at the tight end position. And my flex. Here's a sneaky play. No J.K. Dobbins, guys. So you got to go Gus Edwards. The Gus bus goes up against Atlanta in Atlanta, but he's only 4,300. I think he is definitely undervalued there and should put up some decent numbers since he is the running back, for the Chargers. And lastly, which I believe is the number one start at defense today, the Washington Commanders. They've had a couple of tough weeks. They're at home. They're playing Tennessee. I look for the Commanders to put some overperform their value, your return on investment at 3,400. Make sure you get them in your lineup. Hopefully, everyone got that down. If not, you could go on our website at kickassfantasyfootball.net, and if you missed it, you can make sure you get my projections there for DFS. Since I'm putting up some monster numbers every week. Go ahead, guys.
Yeah. So for this week, I'm going with Jalen Hurts at QB. 7,700. This is the game of the week for me. Eagles and the Ravens. I think it's going to be an incredible offensive game. Um, I for what it's worth, I know Henry's going with Saquon, but even stemming from last year, running backs just find a way to not get in on the 1 yard line. Like I don't know how many times Saquon literally could have probably 4 or 5 more touchdowns on the year, but he's been tackled at the 1 yard line so many times, and Jalen Hurts has been the beneficiary of that. So yeah, I have Jalen Hurts, so a quarterback for 7,700. I'm going with Bijan for 7,300. Bijan Robinson. I think Matt touched on this a little bit. I think it's going to be a great game. Two offenses that are kind of clicking. I'm hoping Bijan has another great game. He's been on the tear. I'm also going with Chase Brown for 6,200. He's the guy over there in Cincinnati, and he's been playing really well. So I like what he's been putting up. I think they're going to have a back and forth game with the Steelers. I don't think the Steelers are going to be able to keep this offense from scoring points. I think Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, that whole crew, T. Higgins, healthy and playing again. I think it's going to open up enough for Chase Brown to have himself a wonderful game. I'm also going with Drake London for 6,500. I think he's going to have an incredible game. I love this offense right now. I'm hoping Kirk, can keep trucking along. And AD Mitchell, 3,900. I know it's it's a kind of a ugly play with Anthony Richardson being back there, but I like what the kids showing, and I think he's going to be able to do some damage. I also have David Moore. So Carolina, another play that's not very sexy, but looking at who's catching the balls out there, I mean, I think Thielen's dust. I like Xavier Legette, but I think David Moore is going to work himself more into the offense, and hopefully he'll help you guys out this week. At tight end, I got T.J. Hawkinson for 4,400. Again, he's getting healthier week by week. It's going to happen. Like there's going to be. I mean, Addison had the game last week where they shut Jefferson down. I think Hawkinson's a good play against the Cardinals defense. They give up points to the tight end, so I like that play. And then in my flex, I have Alvin Kamara, who's if his name's not Taysom Hill and name's not Alvin Kamara, there's pretty much no one on the offense. So I love Alvin Kamara on the flex for 7,700. I think if they have any chance of winning this game, they're going to have to get Kamara involved for sure. And then I got the Colts defense 2,800. Again, not sexy, but you got to fit in what you can fit in for your lineups. That's what I got.
All right, let's get into our waiver wire pickups of the week. Commish, why don't you start us off?
I talked about him earlier with the DFS, but Gus Edwards, hopefully you got him on Tuesday with JK out. I think he's a great replacement, especially, I know not this week, but next week is another Buy Mageddon week 14. So he might be, actually, I'm not even sure if they're off or not. But anyway, I like Gus Edwards the rest of the way here. I also like Jeremy McNichols. I know this week Eckler's out with a concussion. So McNichols, I know Brian Robinson is trending towards playing today, but I think McNichols could get between 10 and 15 carries, and he's got some nice burst to him. So if you need him, He's not a bad waiver wire pickup this week, guys.
Yeah, for sure. Eckler is now on IR, so he's going to miss 4 games. So McNichols is definitely a guy to look at.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. My 2 guys, I have Marquez Valdez Scantling. He is rostered in 22% of ESPN leagues. Listen, I mean, I think he's just like he's a boomer bust guy. I don't know about this week per se, but there might be a playoff game this year that he goes off. I mean, I haven't heard anything about Chris Olave returning. I'll look that up now. But
Things are actually looking up for Olave. They're hearing positive news, but that doesn't give us much. But he's positive signs. I know Henry asked this question a couple weeks ago.
Right.
For the league he's in, I still think he could be back this year. I think he could play in the fantasy playoffs. So just keep that in mind.
yeah, absolutely. Okay. So keep that in mind with Olave. I mean, I actually do think it helps MVS's cause if Olave is able to come back, because I think that will help him get open more. So MVS, I think he's someone to keep an eye on. I mean, we're pretty much close to playoffs, so MVS might be a guy that you might take a chance on during a playoff game. Nick Westbrook-Akine, 19.2% in ESPN leagues. Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's been averaging a touchdown a week for the past 5 or 6 weeks. Like he's just
he almost has like a 50%, Matt. Every time he touches the ball, 50% of the time he's scoring a touchdown. Which I mean, he's not getting any volume, but it's still pretty crazy.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. But he's finding a way in the end. He's getting these red zone, end zone targets every week, and it's just so funny because like I said, this has been happening. This has been happening for the past 5 or 6 weeks, and every single time it happens, I'm like, man, I need to pick this kid up, because I feel like he did have one that was longer than normal, but yeah, I mean, he's just been balling, so that's someone I definitely look to pick up. Jeff, who do you got for your pickup?
Yeah. So I'm always trying to just look at value, see where you can get it. Ray Davis right now, backup running back for Buffalo. Buffalo loves to run the ball. He is not. Just looking at right here, it looks like he's in just over 17% of leagues he's rostered. So, he's looked good this year. He's obviously he's the backup behind Cook. But if Cook goes down, I think he'd be just a great stash to have, especially with next week again being by Mageddon. I still think he's a good play if you really need him in a flex spot. And then the oldest rookie of all, Devon Vele, he's he's getting worked in. He's getting targets. So if you have guys that are going down or on by, I think he's another nice pickup just to have in the flex spot for next week. And this week, if you're missing, there's no one on by this week, I don't think. But he's someone I'm just looking at. I'm trying to look into leagues that are super deep. Maybe you just need that extra spot. Maybe you got a guy who's coming back from, I don't know, IR or something like that, and you're just looking for a guy who's getting volume. Bo Nix he's throwing the ball, which is nice. So that's always just a positive to just keep in mind. But that's what I've got, just those 2 for the week.
All right, let's end the show with our buy low, sell high. I will start it off. Buy low, I have Calvin Ridley and Jacoby Myers. I mean, this is basically the last week you have to make a trade, I think, in most leagues. So, yeah, I really love these two, Calvin Ridley and Jacoby Myers. I mean, yes, Myers already had his game against the Chiefs. He did a pretty good job there.
6 for 97, Matt.
Yeah, that's right.
Strong.
And he's Myers is obviously getting a lot more volume, and lot more targets since Adams left, and Ridley. He's been doing better than what I've imagined. Both of these guys have unbelievable, amazing playoff schedules. I actually went out and got Calvin Ridley in a trade not too long ago. I believe it was I gave up Keenan Allen straight up for Ridley, which of course now Keenan Allen has gone off the past 2 weeks, but I've been liking Ridley, and I'm excited to see what he can do in the playoffs for me. I have CeeDee Lamb as my sell high candidate. I mean, I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but I was watching, on Thanksgiving, and he was just kind of standing there on the sideline, and I don't like they kind of the reporting was weird because they weren't saying he was hurt, they weren't saying he was healthy. It was just like, yeah, like he was just like kind of standing there watching the game. He didn't look happy. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not happy. I mean, having CeeDee Lamb, and yes, obviously Dak Prescott's out for the season, but seeing him, arms crossed, watching this game, healthy or not, like I didn't like the way he seemed. Like he just didn't seem like he was in the game. I don't know if they benched him. I really don't know what was going on there, but I don't know. It's going to be tough for me in this playoffs to be starting Lamb. I know it, but it's a tough decision to make when you're he's obviously a top 10 guy, but I feel like with Cooper Rush, I mean, obviously this past week he didn't really do much. I think it was like 5 point whatever, but it's just going to be tough for CD Lamb owners this playoff season. Jeff, what do you got for your for your guys?
Yeah, this is more of a like a dynasty thing because again, most leagues that I'm in, I don't have trades anymore, with the exception of being in dynasty leagues. So I know that's still a thing. So if you're a contender, I would definitely look to try to acquire Terry McLaurin. I think he's obviously he's old, but Terry's, he's the only guy on this offense that's really a threat to catch the ball and do something with it. So I think if you're a contender, try to get Terry McLaurin. I think he's going to have value next year still too, which is just nice. And then I'm also looking to acquire guys that have had a little bit of uncertainty. So a big one for me right now is Malik Neighbors. Um, you know, he doesn't have Daniel Jones. Drew Lock is not the guy. Like, what are these Giants doing? He had some injury stuff going on too. So, maybe someone has Malik Neighbors and they're kind of frustrated. Obviously, you're not going to be able to get him for cheap. I'm not saying go get him for cheap, but he's definitely someone I can still look at and be like, huh, maybe I can sacrifice a little bit of something just to get a guy who I think is going to be a generational talent. I do think he's as good as, is what's been prescribed. But yeah, that's pretty much what I have. Again, I don't have too many leagues where I have trade deadlines that are still open. So I can't really talk on that. I can only talk about what I'm currently playing in, and it's again, this is strictly things for Dynasty.
All right, Kamish, do you have your buy low, sell high candidates?
Absolutely. Okay, so here we go. Buy low, Kirky Cousins, Drake, Mooney. The next 5 weeks, okay? Here's their schedule: Chargers, Vikings, the Raiders, the New York Football Giants, and the Washington Commanders. These are amazing plays at all those weeks. So if you're able to find a way to get them, go get them. I think they could all be league winners for you. My sell high candidate is going to be Jared Goff. I mean, look, he's been playing some good ball and he's got some great weapons, but his next 5 weeks, which two of these games, by the way, are outside, which he tends not to play as well outside, but he's got Chicago twice. He's got Green Bay, Buffalo, and the Niners. Some tough matchups there. And we'll see if the Detroit Lions are as good as their schedule, as good as their record states right now. But if I have a choice between a tougher matchup or an easier matchup, I'm definitely going with the easier matchup. So these are my Buy low, sell high, guys.
All right, that's going to end it here at the Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. Thank you so much for listening. You can check out our website at kickassfantasyfootball.net and make sure to follow us on Twitter at KAF Football. You can check out our YouTube channel, which we're now live streaming on right now, at Kick-Ass Fantasy Football. Thank you so much, and have a great day.